Silence, please.
I know some chairs are empty, some people are still outside somewhere, maybe attending to their first time with the essence now. While talking about purifying the mind, can I? While talking about purifying of the mind, Radhaji has said once that we shouldn't disturb the harmony which is there. The harmony which is there. So harmony is something which is outside me and also inside me. And just now somebody reminded me of the need to get up from the chair and not push the chair with our legs. The lower portion of the body pushes the chair back so that it makes good sound. But the sound is not always pleasant. Some sounds are not always pleasant. So Radhaji used to say, it has certain amount of atoms in it, like 360 plastic granules make one chair, and 16, I told you the other day, 16 plastic granules make a refill of the pen. So we have to be very careful with the atoms which are there, which are working, which are alive. We can't disturb, we can't make it cry. So observe how you will get up from it and how will you push it, or how will you place it, not push it, how will you place it. These days, because I am slightly on the other side of the age factor, I am not able to lift. Say for example, I take somebody's help to lift. But sometimes when there is nobody around, I try to push. My wife pulls the gas cylinder, putting it on a cloth or a, what is that called, a doormat, so that it doesn't make a sound. So making sounds disturbs the harmony, which disturbs the harmony inside and outside. And like the water has to settle down, if you have to see something which is happening when the water is not moving. We have a place called Mahanandi. Some people from Andhra and Karnataka may know this. There is a place called Nandyal, and Nandyal is part of Kurnool district, and from Nandyal, Mahanandi is there. There is a tank, and the water is so clean. The coins which are put there out of reverence to that water are very clearly seen because the water is pure. But if we disturb the water, we can't see the picture. So similarly, if we disturb the inside which is there in us, the harmony becomes disharmony, then we don't look at ourselves clearly. To see clearly, we have to have that clarity. What we talked yesterday, simplicity brings clarity, clarity brings humility, humility takes us to divinity. So if we have to take the divinity into us, we have to have that qualities in which we promote harmony. So this is one thing. And we have now reached perhaps the last segment of this book, which is where she is talking about freedom from attachment. Freedom from attachment. Number of people have talked about it, and Buddha talked about it, Krishna ji talked about it. I am equating Krishna ji and Buddha together in one breath, because I sometimes felt some of the Kannadigas who used to come from Bengaluru were told by their elder ones, I am not talking about masters, their gurus, ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಡಪ್ಪ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ನೋಡು ಬುದ್ಧರು ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. గెట్ ఇట్ ఇన్ కన్నడ, ఏమి చేయొద్దు, నువ్వు ఊరికే చూస్తూ ఉండని బుద్ధుడు కనిపిస్తాడు. నీకు అర్థం కాదు ఆయన మాట్లాడుతున్నది, ఏమి చేయొద్దు, ఆయన చూడు, బుద్ధుడు కనిపిస్తాడు. డోంట్ డూ ఎనీథింగ్, జస్ట్ లుక్ ఎట్ హిమ్, you'll be able to look at Buddha. This was the teaching their gurus used to people who are elders like Rachappa. He's the person who said that. I heard it. I was a kid. I heard it. I tried, but I didn't see Buddha. I've seen him at very close quarters, like Lakshmi is sitting where, and I used to sit opposite to him. But I couldn't see Buddha, but I saw Krishnaji. So this is what I'm saying. A lot of people have talked about freedom from attachment. There are many more, I guess. I'm just calling two names because familiar names, Buddha, Krishnaji, and Radhaji. And she's talking about the freedom from attachment. And she begins this last section of her talk. She begins her last section of the book or the lecture. This is a lecture converted into a book. We talked about it. She talks about the last section of a talk or book by saying creative power. If you want to use the Sanskrit word, srujanatmakata, creative power, which is unlimited when it comes to our consciousness, can work well. That creative power can work well. That's unlimited, that power, the creative power is unlimited. And when it comes to our human consciousness, it can work well when there is no attachment to objects or persons. Normally we get attached to these two. Maybe there are other things we get attached to. Maybe my pen. I'm just giving an example of my pen. I'm not attached. I'm carrying a small pen which is maybe 10 rupees or 15 rupees. I won't know. I'm just giving an example because readily it comes to mind. Radhaji begins in the last session of her talk by saying that the creative power, srujanatmaka, a state of creating, which is unlimited when it comes to our human consciousness, can work well when there is no attachment to objects or to persons. And she says, unless the consciousness is free from all attachments, it cannot reach the stage of nirvana or moksha. We know this theory, we know. She also is experienced it, perhaps she is saying it so succinctly, so clearly. So when you are talking something, sometimes if it comes out of conviction, it's very strong. The other person is able to reach it. I heard one person by the name Fritz Kunz, who came from United States of America. He talked all about chemistry, compounds and all that, but then I was not a student of science, but I followed the method of his talking. So much of conviction was there as to the truth which he knows, which is expounding. And my guide and professor by name Pushkaran, who used to guide us into how to live, he told me, listen to him with what conviction he's talking. Because we were enacting a drama in the convention, 1975 I guess, enunciating the principles of theosophy. And I was playing the main lead. So they wanted me to say with a lot of conviction the truths which are very important to be conveyed. So unless you have conviction, you cannot perhaps communicate. So conviction is important. Conviction is a strong belief that is perhaps right because I found out here, inside me. So unless the consciousness is free from all attachments, it cannot reach the stage of moksha or nirvana. In Sanskrit we say bhava bandha vimochana. Bhava bandha vimochana. Bandha is tying up. Bhava, because I am born, I am getting tied with all this. Vimochana is freedom. So freedom is something which is actually very naturally available. We don't know to access it because we are busy with other things. But freedom is something which is very naturally that is available to all of us. Instinctively, Every form wants to be free, instinctively. We may put a parrot in a cage to see the beauty of the color of the parrot, but that's not the real state of the parrot. But every form wants to be free, instinctively, because that's the instinct which is there in us. Interestingly, the fetters or the chainings or the bandhanas are formed by individuals. Some are related to the karmic links, the links which are promoted by the law of karma. Never the other attachments which man has made for himself. Man has made most of the attachments all by his own actions, but most of the times it is man-made, but also there are some links which are formed because of the karma. Like for example, the law of karma says to which parents you are born, which place you should belong, what sort of faculties you should have. All this is part of karma. But there are more than that which I acquire, I add on, so which are my attachments, my bandhanas. So when man is able to get rid of all these attachments, all these chains which binds him, and all these, mind you, are finite, not infinite. You can cut that bandhana if you have got the mind to cut it. You can unwind, provided you have a mind to unwind. But we put one more round of rope around us, it becomes one more round. So, all these bandhanas are finite, meaning things which can be done away with. They're all transient, meaning temporary. Then, if he realizes these attachments are temporary, and if he wants to get in touch with the original self which is in him, we're not talking about the bodies. He may be conscious, he may not be conscious. But he's very conscious of the physical body, all right. But there are other bodies, we're not always sure whether he's in touch with them. But that being the case, whether the real self, we realize it is there in me, is another point, another moot point. So, these attachments which are transparent, finite, should go if he has to get in touch with that original, natural being. That is the real self. So the consciousness which is free, the human consciousness, the individual consciousness, which is naturally free, we have made it unnaturally, it is succumbing to certain bandhanas. The consciousness which is free naturally is endowed with eternal values, permanent values, whereas the bandhanas are temporary, but the consciousness, the real consciousness of man, which is free, is endowed with eternal values like wisdom, love, harmony, abundance. All these are natural, eternal values. So, the free consciousness only can get access to it, can perhaps get nearer to it. Besides freedom of this consciousness which we are talking about, if we are very consciously we are letting it, becoming it more free, and we're moving towards that voidness which we talked some time back. The voidness is outside, the voidness is there in me, and we were talking outside some time back. If you take a pot, look into that pot, there is a sound which is coming out of the pot, and there is void there when there is no water in it. The void is there. When I drop it on the ground, that void goes back to the overall external void. So this we know. So there is void in this. That's why that void, that voidness, that emptiness should be kept empty, should not be loaded with things which are not required. That's why the chopping which we're talking about. Sometime back we were talking about the chopping. So, the natural qualities, eternal values of wisdom, love, harmony, and abundance. Abundance means plentiness. Love. Actually, it is abundant. We perhaps restrict it by making choice. I like Lakshmi Shah, I like Harshvardhan. I don't like somebody else. We make a choice, but it has no choice. It is there to be given to everybody. Not only human beings, maybe yes, everything around us. So, besides this freedom of the consciousness which we are talking about, when we are completely aware of that voidness or that complete consciousness which we are making it clean because our purification of the mind has taken place, purification of the consciousness is taking place because I'm looking into myself and making it very clean, then what happens? It brings us close to what we talked some time back, Sat Chit Ananda. Bliss is Brahmananda. Nothing is comparable to that Ananda. So we are getting closer to that. And Chit is purity of mind, which is absolutely pure. There is no iota of impurity there. It's absolutely pure. And Sat is absolute fact. There is nothing which is inabsolute about it. So that's Sat Chit Ananda. We come closer to that when we are making our consciousness free. Right? Only when man's consciousness is free, the latent powers in man can be awakened. Only when the consciousness is free, the latent powers of man can be awakened. We are talking about the awakening of the latent powers in man and the laws and all, the third object. So, she's talking about only when man's consciousness is free from attachments, then the latent power of man can be awakened. And she says, the latent powers have nothing to do with telepathy, clairvoyance, or clairaudience. We think that's great. Telepathy, clairvoyance, clairaudience are great powers. She says, no, nothing great about that. Something much more than that is there. So, Radhaji says these powers, which some people even market, because I'm able to see your father who is dead and gone, or I know a couple at Hyderabad whose 27-year-old son passed away due to a kidney infection. So where is he? What is he doing? This man wants to know. I said, not required. Why are you wanting to pull him back? Let him go forward. So we do this pulling back unknowingly. Sir, you're the only person who said leave him. I said, a number of people would have said who are members of this society because they know what happens to a man after death. But we don't pay attention to it. Learning is one thing. Putting that learning into life is a different thing. So, Radhaji says, the above powers which we talked about, telepathy, etc., they don't bring quantum change in one's life. They don't bring value addition to our life or to our consciousness. On the other hand, what happens? Man may get caught in the field of illusion and may overassess himself as an advanced soul. I got the power, so I am advanced than some other people. So he might have that false notion about him. So the man who thinks he has got those powers, extraordinary powers, he thinks they are extraordinary. They are not extraordinary. So it is an illusion. He is in the field of illusion and may overassess himself as an advanced soul. Identifying with these powers is definitely a form of illusion. And even working, voice of the silence, the first sentence it says, don't work for these, means don't go after these powers. Don't go after these powers. If they come naturally to you because you're all love encompassing, be with it. But don't say, I've got this power. The minute you say, I've got this power, that power goes. It's not there with you. And a person who has got tremendous love, he can do a lot of things. He can heal. He can do so many things. But a person who says, I've got this power, he cannot heal. So the tremendous power of love is something which we can hold in our heart and use it when we are sending good thoughts to others. So that is something which we should understand and hold that power of love which is supreme. There used to be a bookmark which T-Page used to sell, a saying of Leadbeater. If you have love, you have everything. If you don't have love, you have nothing. If you have love, you have everything. If you don't have love, you have nothing. So love is everything. So these powers of telepathy, clairvoyance, I'm able to hear to somebody who is talking at 45 kilometers away. Okay, you hear. Be with it. Right. So, living with those so-called powers is illusion. So now Radhaji is saying, this is a very important statement. I think I would straighten myself to even talk about this. So now Radhaji is saying, self-knowledge is denial as well as discovery. Self-knowledge, Atma-vidya, though she is using knowledge, it is actually meaning wisdom. Self-knowledge is thus denial as well as discovery. So you deny your petty self, open up yourself to the higher self, and renunciation as well as realization, the second part of the sentence. It is at the same time renunciation of the lower self and realization of the higher self. That takes you to the wisdom or self-knowledge, Atma-vidya, as people say. Practical occultism also means the occultism or the Gupta Vidya, which is Atma-vidya. So it is ending of attachment and moving away from illusion is what a man is supposed to do. Man means also woman. We talked about it yesterday. So ending of attachment and moving away from illusion is what a man is supposed to do. After one has gone through these steps of denial, discovery, renunciation, realization, after one has gone through these steps, then what happens? One realizes the true nature, I have talked about it already, which is full of love, harmony and peace. So this is where we have to land. That's the destination. So when we have renounced the petty self, realized the higher self, similarly, I have also denied my lower self and discovered my higher self. I have gone through these processes and steps. Process is very important in life. Result will automatically come. A person who played cricket all his life, maybe at least from 20th year or 18th year, Dhoni says this, process is important, not the result. I may win, I may not win, but process I adopt is more important. But process is not all right, nothing will come. If like yesterday we said, the first step is somewhere else, I can't reach the destination. I have to move towards the destination. So first step is the last step. So process is very important. So in that process, one realizes the true nature which is full of love, harmony and peace. We simply ask, we cry for peace. Peace elsewhere is different. Peace inside me, how will it come? If there is so much of negativity in me, there's so much of hatred in me, so much of jealousy in me, how can it come? I'm not able to appreciate the growth of my neighbor, how can it come? I'm always thinking, oh, that fellow has earned the other way, that's why he's so. So what? What's your problem? He will face his karma. But why are you talking about it? By talking about his karma, you are making double the karma than what he has made. We don't know this, but we do talk. And man discovers, who has gone through the work or gone through the process, the power of his pure consciousness. The power of the pure consciousness. There is no impurity whatsoever. Absolutely clean, absolutely pure. Like that water which we talked about in Mahanandi. So pure, so crystal clear. That's how it should be. So, Voice of the Silence always talks about how one goes towards that, how we move towards that. Right in the Path talks about it, At the Feet of the Master talks about it. All these granthas, sadhana granthas, talk about how to make our consciousness pure. This giving up, or this purging away means removing. Purgatory is a process which, something which is inside me, I'm leaving them, ejecting them. So this purging away should take place not just at the superficial level. Like she said yesterday, I don't want to be greedy and look elsewhere immediately. It's not going to happen. If I look at greediness thoroughly, understand the greediness, why it's coming to me, why am I envying the fellow who is next door, or within my house, maybe my brother is very rich, why am I envious about it? So if I look very, very deep, then perhaps I understand what is greed and what is envy. But I casually talk about I should not be greedy. The next moment I talk about the lunch which I need to have. I'm not paying attention to the greediness. So she says, giving up or purging away of negative quality should take place not just at the superficial level of the mind, of the lower mind. Lower mind stores all this. It plays games with us. So the denial, the purging means purgatory purging. Purging means going deep into every crevice of the mind. Crevice is small gaps. There's a crack in the wall. We say it's a crevice. Crevice means a gap which is formed. Something is there in between. So in the mind also there are some crevices. We have to dwell deep into those gaps and find out what's really happening. Every hidden layer of the mind contains something which is perhaps not worth carrying. Every hidden layer of the mind, because we don't want to show what is hidden. What is outside us is what we would like to project. So every hidden layer of the mind, it has something which you need to eject or throw it away. That being the process which is required for purification of the consciousness, that sort of consciousness can get rid of attachment. That's what she's saying. Attachment, simply saying that from tomorrow I will not do this. Something like I will not be greedy and immediately doing something else. So it is not in tomorrow, there is a change. The change is now. The change is now. The power of now. I don't know how many people have read that book. Yes. It is now we have to change, not on Wednesday, not on Saturday. Saturday is a good day. Wednesday is a good day for Tamilians. Ponnad, they say. It's a day of gold. But so what? You can start now. Mangalwar is also a good day. But we think, yes, I'll start doing it on Wednesday. Today let me enjoy what I'm supposed to enjoy. This is the one thing, one day, I yield to the old temptation of mine. I go back perhaps 10 or 100 steps down. I have conquered slowly. I have been living away of eating something which is not to be eaten. And suddenly I give up. One day I eat that. I go 100 steps down in my journey. So how do I do it? How do I? The minute I see that food stuff which is there before me, I should have a feeling, I have given it up. Even if it is something which I lived all along eating it, now I will not eat it. I'll draw what my grandfather used to say. He used to say, how do you develop this ability not to eat something which is before you? And he told me an example of, what is the sweet you like most? We used to have the porous Mysore pak, not the soft Mysore pak now, the porous Mysore pak, which South Indians will know. That is the thing which I like most, I told him. Keep that before you, don't eat it, look at it. Don't eat it, look at it. Look at it till the evening. Don't eat it. And finally, before sleeping maybe, because in sleep we'll get Mysore pak, eat it. So this practice of keeping away from the thing which I like most, you can extend it to the next day. You can extend it to the next day further. Maybe you can extend it to the next month. That's how you can leave. You understand what it is, then you can leave. But if you don't understand, from tomorrow I will not eat Mysore pak, it is not going to help. That's just a name of the sweet. Mysore pak is the name of the sweet. Perhaps it was made in the Mysore first. I wouldn't know how that name came. So this is the lesson I learned from him as far as keeping away from the thing which most liked by one individual. I going from a personal example. So she is talking about giving up not at the superficial level, but giving up completely, totally, so that that thing, even it comes before me, I'm not moved. I'm not tempted. Tempted, that's the word. One time let me have. One time let me have. I will not have it afterwards. But that one time is good enough. Down it will go. You will go down by 100 steps. So thus emptied, Madam says, thus emptied of all its gatherings. Gatherings is, I have carefully collected all of them and think that that's the most valuable thing in my life. So thus emptied of all its gatherings. Actually, at one point of time, when this purging away has taken place, there is no gatherer. There is no gatherer. Means the gathering person is gone. He is no longer interested in gathering. But he gathered over a period of time, but then he has given up completely, not just temporarily, completely. So after that, there is no gatherer. The person who wants to gather is not there. So, the denial or the purging means going through deeply into the thing which I would like to leave completely. So when that has happened, when that has really happened, not superficially it has happened, or sometimes when I talk about it, yesterday I talked about it, but then when I talk about it, maybe it's not with me. So sometimes talking about it also, it pulls you back. And I realized, Madam Vasmati was saying, when I get back home, I'll continue my practice. That's exactly what I'm supposed to do. I've given up recently milk products, but then here the tea is full of milk, tea is full of sugar, but when I get back home, I'll get back to my old method of taking. If I take coffee or tea, I have heard yesterday, so I think I may have the courage to leave that also, which I've been carrying on. Coffee was something which I loved all my life, and John B.S. Coates said one thing very interesting. I will say that, and remember John B.S. Coates was a wonderful, loving human being. Once we went to him to discuss various subjects on youth movement and all that. So he gave us coffee in the beginning and then a lot of things to eat. And then he said one thing which sort of shocked me. In England, back in England, we say, would you care for another cup of coffee? I almost said yes, because I love coffee. He said, if we say that, what it means is, you've bored me enough, you can walk. But I didn't know that expression. So I said, sorry sir, I've wasted a lot of your time. No, 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 I'm not mentioning you, but this is the expression we have. But this is something which I carry with me. It happened in 76 or 77. But I remember, he said, you people have spoiled the coffee. We take it bitter, hot, after dinner, not in the morning. But we don't know this. We've been told from younger days, coffeeing is the in thing, right? So giving up means understanding and giving up. So thus, emptied of all the gatherings, there is no gatherer. That person who is gathering is not existing. That me is dissolved. That me is dissolved. There is no past, no memories of me and mine. These memories of something which I've tasted or something which I've experienced, because it's there in memory, I'll call it back. How I wish I had that again. Basundi I had at Calcutta, not in Hyderabad. If I remember that, why can't I have it again? Where will I get it? I'll search for it. I'll go all over Hyderabad to find out where Basundi is. So this is the problem we have. We unnecessarily go dissipate our energy. So that me, if it is dissolved, mine, my experiences are gone. If there is no past and no memories of me and mine, you remain pure. If all those things are filled with it, you should know how to empty it. Like we talked some time back, emptying the recycle bin in the computer. Since we talked about Krishna ji a number of times, somebody asked him in the morning discussion meeting, sir, you're born at Madanapalli? Oh, is that so? He asked. He forgot all about that. And he said, do you remember Telugu? Because he's a Telugu man, born to Narayanaya. No, sir, I don't remember Telugu. See how he wiped off see, that's if you have got serious intention to wipe it off, one could wipe it off. But if I take pride in saying, I know Telugu, I know Tamil, like I keep saying sometimes, and somebody says, you're a Tamilian, you speak Telugu. Yes, perhaps I'm taking pride in it. If that pride goes, that ability to remember, which is not essential if it goes, the pure me will remain, and that pure me will be the person who would empty everything, and then that emptiness, that getting rid of all attachments, that consciousness becoming pure is what we are trying to achieve. So slowly, bit by bit, every day, like we talked the other day, trying to answer the question of that madam who was there from Guntur. If there is a hill there, I go touch it every day and come, it will not break. But I spend 5 hours every day trying to chip off a portion of that hill, it might disappear, like we removed all the hills in Uttarakhand. You have the floods in Uttarakhand because we removed all that and converted that into building material. So people have done that. Maybe they blasted rocks or whatever. But I am giving the example because if you do the assiduous practice of breaking the habits which we have, it is possible. But if we are not serious about it, it's not possible. So the hill example is for that. The mind which is free, vacant, is ready to receive. The consciousness which is free and vacant is ready to receive. So anything you have to get from above, or some divine messages have to come, or somebody higher up than you should give you messages. It will come only when there is empty space. Like the Zen story of the tea getting overflowing from the cup. Same thing. So the mind which is free is ready to receive. The consciousness which is vacant, void, is ready to receive. But this emptying, Radhaji says, should not be, watch this, this emptying, Radhaji says, should not be like another craving of the mind. Even craving for moksha is also craving. It should come automatically because I'm doing all that is possible to get moksha. I'm getting rid of all the attachments because I'm getting moksha. But I say, I'm doing all this because I want moksha. I keep talking about it, you will never get moksha. Because you are planning to get moksha. It doesn't come out of plan. It comes, it happens, like happiness happens. Moksha also happens when the right atmosphere is created within me. So Radhaji says, emptying should not be like another craving of the mind, another desire of the mind. If there is craving of any nature, it is an impediment, it is an obstruction. So, number of people have talked about this. There is a beautiful lecture Brother Sri Ram gave long back, which is also converted into a book, Seeking Wisdom. And Radhaji talked about a number of times, you stop craving, stop wanting this, wanting that. Yes, Buddha said it, Krishna ji said it, and so many other people, Ramakrishna said it. Vivekananda wanted to see God. You forget about everything and get immersed into water. You have a desire to come up and live. With what force you try to come up, that force will take you nearer to God. But if you want to give up and go down into water, you will not be there. But we are trying to get closer to the thing which will take us down into water, but not doing something which will keep us above water. Somebody was talking yesterday or some time back, the dead floats in water. The dead floats in water. People who jump into Alsur lake, they float in water. But there are people who do this holding of the breath, one form of kumbhaka as they call it, and they float in water. I had a relative of mine, my grandmother's brother. I said, how do you do it? I do it, but I can teach you provided you have time. We didn't have time. We only spent 2 days there. It was a small village near Bhadrachalam. So he used to do it, float in Godavari when it was in full spate. He was not caring where he will go. So this is possible, provided we work for it. So emptying is possible, provided we work for it. So emptying, Radhaji says, should not be another craving for the mind or consciousness. If there is craving of any nature, it could be even, as I said, craving for moksha, it is an impediment. It's an obstruction. The craving to experience must wholly cease, which happens only when the experiencer is not nourishing on himself on experiences and their memories. This is a quote. The above is a quote from J.K.'s Commentaries on Living. Madam has put it in the book. The craving to experience must wholly cease when the experiencer is not nourishing on himself and experiences and their memories. We recall beautiful experiences, but we don't want to recall the experiences where we were not so happy. Do we? We don't. But any experience, whether it's sad or happy, don't bring it back. Live in the present. That's the ultimate story, ultimate fact. So the craving to experience must wholly cease, which happens only when the experiencer is not nourishing on himself, on experiences and their memories. This is a quote from J.K.'s book, actually lectures again made into book, Commentaries on Living, Volume 1. Right. When the purging is total, when the giving up is total and natural, one gets to know the real self. How do we know the real self? She says, when the purging away or purgatory experience or purgatory exercise when you do, if it is total and natural, purgatory is giving up, purging it away. When it is total and natural, one gets to know the real self. The basket full of memories, experiences, attachments have to be emptied. The basket has to be free of all attachments. But right now, what it is, the basket full of memories, experiences, attachments have to be emptied. It has to happen day in and day out. Every day we have to do it, every moment we have to do it. It's not that I do it on Wednesday, I forget about it on Thursday. No. It has to be done day in and day out. Throughout the day it has to be done. Throughout the life in which we are living, it has to be. Any memory. There was one person who said, somebody gives me a title because I have been speaking very well. He's a Pravachana Karta. He says, if I have been speaking and somebody gives me Pravachana Kesari, means he's a lion of Pravachana. The next moment in Sanjyamadana, I leave it. It's not with me. But if I write every time my name appears, like Padma Shri is written, Pravachana Kesari, so and so and so, it is there with him. But he says very, very honestly that I leave it in this Sanjyamadana the next morning. That means he's purging it away. So can we do that like that? So this is something Madam is suggesting to us. After the purging away or emptying, as said some time back, there is no more me. Nothing remains. Nothing remains which is mine. Can we imagine that state? Nothing remains which is mine. It's difficult. Immediately when we want to do it, it's difficult. But slowly, one could walk towards that. Slowly, it has to be work. It's a work day in and day out. Maybe for incarnations to come sometimes. Not just this incarnation. I've started the journey now. I can complete it somewhere elsewhere. Maybe I live with that idea and I come back to that idea so I can continue the journey. So this is how she talks about there is no mere me after purging away has taken place or the emptying has taken place. Nothing remains which is mine. The phrase self-knowledge may suggest ordinarily the knowledge I have to acquire to get moksha. This is how self-knowledge is normally understood. The phrase self-knowledge may suggest ordinarily, normally, the knowledge I have to acquire to get moksha. Because a lot of people talk about it. Bhagavad Gita talked about it, Upanishads talked about it, a lot of gurus, Anandas, Paramanandas, all of them have talked about it. So, it is not the knowledge which you have to gather to get moksha. Knower who is wanting to know, knower who wants to know is non-existent. Knower who wants to know is non-existent. It's a tough call. It's not easy. Always I'm thinking I'm there. The person who wants to know is not there. So much of merging has taken place with this higher self and the outer real self. So if that happens, there is nirvana. There is moksha. So in the real sense of the term, when we think deeply and dispassionately, not with an idea that passionate means I associate myself with it, I'm not able to separate myself with it, but then I go in the flow with it. So in the real sense of the term, when we think deeply, dispassionately and wisely, actually, there is no knowledge and no knower. This is another step. We are saying there is knowledge, there is knower, but when you look at dispassionately, absolutely without any passion, oh, I'm there. No, look at dispassionately and wisely. There's no knowledge, no knower. These sentences, I think, are worth meditating. It's in a small book. We said on the other day, great wisdom comes in small packages. So this is what it is. So we have to be very careful. Choose these sentences and not necessarily close your eyes and meditate, but meditate. What's the real meaning of this? Expand your horizon of thought as to what all it could include. We used to have a professor who used to talk about income tax. We studied income tax in our graduation. He said, you imagine what all income can be, where all income can be included, extend it completely. Whether salary is income, bonus is income, or interest is income, extend it completely. And then you know what income is. Similarly, when we extend our horizon of thinking, look at that dispassionately, not with a feeling that I am looking at it. I look at it wisely. There is no knowledge and no knower. There are no two. No duality, says Madam. No duality. There are no two, there is only one, saying Radhaji. There is only one, which is everything, which is part of everything, part of that oneness. There's oneness which she talked about a number of times in this book. She says there is only one which is everything and which is part of that oneness. And she ends with a quote of the Masters, which is there in letter number 69 of Mahatmalitas, wherein she says, it is the Master saying, she is quoting, the real knowledge is not mental knowledge. We think it is a mental knowledge. She says the real knowledge is not a mental knowledge, but it is a spiritual knowledge. And it's coming from a spiritual state. Not a physical state, not a mental state. It is coming from a higher state. There is union between the knower and the known at the spiritual. There is no two at that stage. But every other stage, I am there. I am part of that. I know by theory, but I don't realize it as a fact. So this is what she is saying. The real knowledge is not a mental knowledge, but a spiritual knowledge, and is coming from a spiritual state. And she says there is union between the knower and the known there. The no two, she said in the previous sentences. So there is no knower and the known. And we have used words to know the self-knowledge. That's the only communication we have. So we use the words, and we should know how to look beyond the words. Again, J.K. says, word is not the thing. You call this a mic? That's not a mic. That's to give a gross example. But something which is beyond word, if you can look at it without calling it a mic or calling it anything, don't describe, don't label it, he used to say. So we have used words to know the self-knowledge. Words are the means of communication in this physical world. We were talking about it yesterday. Only here we have language. Elsewhere there is no language. The higher up we go, there is no language. And even the dreams, I dream, I don't know in which language it is, but I get up and perhaps put it back into English or Tamil or Telugu and relate it to somebody. Oh, this is the dream I had. But were you dreaming in Telugu or were you dreaming in English? No. This fact should be known to us. We are communicating with words, because this is the physical world. If we have to understand the content of the words, we have to raise our consciousness higher up to the spiritual level and stay there, the fourth principle of the seventh subplane. If you can be there, propel yourself there, slowly go there, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, seventh, sixth, seventh. So if you're there completely, maybe yes, that's the spiritual field. So we have to realize and get nearer to the spirit. We have to realize and get nearer to the spirit, where words may not be heard with these ears. These ears are of no use. We have to realize and get nearer to the spirit, where words may not be heard by these ears. Somebody asked me the other day, when we are meditating, there are a lot of sounds around in my house. How do you meditate? If we develop the practice of closing the astral ears, we have an astral body, same ears, no, everything is there. So if we have the practice, if we know the practice of closing the astral ears, because that formed first, the physical form next, if you can close that, this gets closed. So no disturbance on earth can shake you. So this is a advantage of knowing theosophy. Our thoughts, our contemplation, and our meditation, our love for all living creatures will take us near to that state. Our thoughts, our contemplation, and our meditation, our love for all living creatures will take us nearer to that oneness. It will take us nearer to that oneness. This self will get to know and become part of the self, the big capital self, the real self, the universal self. This self is a small s. The outside self is a big capital S. That's the universal self. This is a small self. But we should know I'm small. My guru who taught me Ramayana said, he's a wonderful scholar. He can reel any shloka from any 18 Puranas without looking at the book. Excellent person. And he told us once, Krishna, you think you are important? I said, no, sir. No. He said, Asia, then India, then Hyderabad, then Malkajgiri, 12th lane, 7th house. You are one of them. Why do you think you are great? So if you can imagine like that, break it into small pieces and nothing remains. Even that is not there. I say it's not mine. It's not my house. It's not my place. The more you think like that, the more you become universal. So she says our thoughts, our contemplation and our meditation, our love for all living creatures will take us nearer to that oneness. And this self, this small self will get to know or become part of the real self. So there we end presentation of the book, because I'm told the afternoon session is not referring to this book. It is Madam Manju Sundaram. She will talk. What she gathered, what she experienced, we have read her book.
Sheetalji is here. She had a question earlier. I just asked her to start video. And all online is the last session. So kindly ask your question. Sheetalji, you can put on your video.
My grandfather used to say, can you silence this? Very interesting information I'm giving. My grandfather used to say, if there is still 5 more minutes, stop before that. Because if people are expecting that you will say some more words, you stop at that time. That will be proper. Don't seek from the chairman, I want 10 more minutes. No. Stop before your time. So I thought 12:30 they will come and they will talk and they will do something. Maybe talk about the experiences you had here. Maybe not all pleasant, not all good, but still we have come, sat together and heard. Thank you. Now you can put the question if you like. Let him or her, I don't know, let's he or she.
She's not there.
Okay, maybe she could wait for that half an hour rest in between. Yes, any persons here who would like to ask if there are any questions of oneness, something to do with the book, nothing out of the context, because somebody sent yesterday too, but that's not the chapter here.
The Buddha says that people are having poverty and disease. Says that suffering is due to attachment and desire. The most of our elders say that everything is being done in your life are due to karma or present or past. So this is clarified whether both contents are the same or different.
Sufferings are due to attachments, is what we heard in the last session. Desires are one more factor which Lord Buddha talked from ages ago, and what our brother is saying, there are gurus or perhaps Swamijis who said it is all because of the law of karma we are suffering. It is law of karma which brings people together. We get attached to the people together. We also get attached to the objects which are present in this world. Not only that, it is law of karma which decides what sort of orientation I should have towards people, towards objects. Are objects more important? Are the people more important? We have come to a stage where we think objects are more important. So, where are we? So, the law of karma definitely has a role to play in what sort of life you are going to lead. And yes, I have done something wrong to you, it will have to be made good in this life. So one suffers because I have beaten somebody, that person will come in some other form and beat me, or somebody, his representative will come and beat me. So this will go on. This will go on. So this is something which will happen. But attachments, not able to get freedom from desires, that also adds to the suffering we have. Yes, we do suffer, and we don't give it to the law of karma that we are suffering because of the law of karma. But we think there is some other cause for which we are suffering. But law of karma is written by whom? The karmic links are established by whom? The lines are drawn by whom? I have drawn the lines. I have to suffer because I have drawn the lines. I have inked those lines. Those lines are coming back to me as karma. So, in a way, I am responsible. My attachments are responsible. My vasanas are responsible. My samskaras are responsible. So, it works that way. Okay?
Here.
This is audible.
Okay.
The person with self-knowledge suffers most. Why?
If he is someone who has got the self-knowledge, then there is no suffering. If I am seeking self-knowledge, if I am not able to empty myself, there is a problem. But a person who is got that self-knowledge, he knows he is not attached to anything, he is not part of anything which is temporary, he is not suffering. You take, for example, all those persons who have gone through this self-realization. We say he's a realized soul. So all those people, though perhaps they were not wearing the richest of clothes, maybe they are not someone who had all the objects which the normal person will have in their home, but they were very happy, very contented. I keep talking about Ramana because I've heard about Ramana a lot, but I used to see the photograph, as I said, in every Tamilian's house, but I never knew who that person was. And then I was taken to Tiruvannamalai, or I went to Tiruvannamalai. And when we sit there and meditate and try to get nearer to that consciousness, it is not the lion's cloth he was wearing and looking simple. The consciousness was all loving. The consciousness of his was all loving. He could go and talk to a monkey which is crying. Can you beat it? A monkey is crying because one of its kids dropped from the tree and hurt that small monkey, hurt herself. This mother monkey was crying, and he would walk up to that monkey and talk. And I'll tell you another example. We had a landlady when we were living in a rented apartment at Hyderabad, realized not attached to anything, but then she would shower love on everything around. And she had at least 300 to 400 rose plants. And she will not pluck a single flower. And if there is one plant which is not giving a flower, it will go there and says, of course she will talk in Telugu. It means, it translated loosely, it means, are you angry with me? You have not given a flower? Are you angry, Ra? Why have you not given a flower? The next day it flowers. It happens when you show love to that plant, it responds. I'll tell you a small example which happened very recently in our life, in our house. There is a Bilva Vriksha which we are trying to bring up for quite some time, maybe 6-7 years. Because it was not watered properly, it shed all its leaves and the stem became absolutely dry. Absolutely dry. And I took the leaf out of that lady's book and I gave water not only at the roots, but I gave snan to the entire stem and requested, would you flower? Would you not leave? Would you not come back to life? I don't know when I get back what will be the state, because somebody else has been given the responsibility of watering, but the leaves came up again. So the minute we show that love, so this is possible. Love does everything. So I realized his soul was self-knowledge people suffer. No. It is not suffering. It is, even if they are taking suffering of others, there are certain people who take the suffering of others, like perhaps M.V. Kamath's book I've read about Sai Baba. Such a thick text. He says he used to take the troubles of others on him. But he did not suffer. He knew how to cleanse it. He knew how to remove it from him. The other person will get cured and he knows how to cleanse. But can you do it with everyone? He knew which person should be helped and which person should go through with his karma. So a person by name Abdullah, I remember the name, who has had a very big wound or vrun as we call it. He didn't cure him. He said, you have to suffer. You suffer. So I can cure if you want, but it will again come back to you. So better you face it now. So that M.V. Kamath's book gave evidence to so many things like that. He is a person who said, I am an ordinary person, but there is someone above me, and he is the person who is guiding everything. He was in torn clothes most of the time. He was full of love and compassion. And maybe there are other saints like that. He is not someone who suffered. He is somewhere close to your place. He is. And there are a lot of people like that. Ramana, maybe Shirdi Sai Baba, who we are talking about. M.V. Kamath wrote about Shirdi Sai Baba. And like that, our own people who have realized and who have become masters, an adept who has struggled, did sadhana. And he says, Master says in one of his letters, I don't have to do anything now. If I have to learn anything now, the way looking at it, I learn everything. The book, I don't have to go through the book again. I have done enough sadhana. I have reached here. An adept is a person who is skillful, who is someone who has reached the stage because he has worked hard. And once having worked hard, there is no question of suffering for him. While working hard, he is very happy to work hard. Because ultimate thing is, I don't want to consider this as important or permanent. I would reach the ultimate Brahmananda, bliss. So that was what self-knowledge. For outsiders, for onlookers, we may think that he is suffering, but he is not suffering. He is enjoying helping others, loving others. There was a lady who was banned from the ashram, in Ramana ashram, Nagamma by name. She was banned. She was not allowed to join the ashram in the meditation, in the prayers and all that. Guess what this man did? He used to walk up to that place where she was living and she would talk to her. And she wrote down all that he talked into book. And she didn't know the language. She told all that he told to her granddaughter. She reduced it into a book. So this is there. Giving, when you start giving, that's when you have tremendous amount of love within us. The time you grab, it could be anything. You want to grab power, you want to grab position. What is position after all? Somebody sent a message, I become this now. So what? When this is going to go, the power which this body is going to gain, what is it power like? What is that power? Power is temporary, right? Lust for life, which we talked about, the temporary power. Why do you imagine so great about yourself you should become more humble. If you are wise, you become more humble. I am taking from where you know. You are wise, so you become humble. So this is what it is. Because I am wise, I shouldn't be throwing my weight around. I should become all the more humble. I have the power. So I should not show my power and say like that. No, I become all the more humble and try to solve the problems. So power doesn't do anything. Power is an illusion. If you're given an opportunity to do something, that is something which you should do very humbly. I'm the president of the lodge, I'm the secretary of the federation. So what? Do it with a lot of love, a lot of concern for all the workers, all the members. Workers, I'm saying, because there is a sweeper who is there. If I'm not kind to him, what good it is? I can't associate myself with the problem he's going through. What good it is? Can I help him? Can I lift him by his bootlaces, as people say? But if talk to some other person, I'm busy. You can also say that. So, a lot of it is practical, because she said wisdom is practical. Wisdom is practical. It is impractical, nahi hai. Wisdom is practical. So, a wise person is always humble. A powerful person is always humble. He will not say, I'm this. But there are people who perhaps know the power is not temporary, power is something which will be there. Because I heard somebody saying, so and so will be there till he's 75. How does he know? Tomorrow he may go. So this is what life is all about. We talked about the net which is there carrying, traveling along with us. The net can fall anytime. But we think we are permanent. That's the problem. The Yaksha Prashna of Yudhishthira, death takes place the next door. He says, that's the highest thing. It is there, not with me. It will not come to me. That's the understanding people have. So this is what is life. I would, of course, he is not there. I would thank Mr. Pradeep Gohil for having, call him if you like, yes, for giving me an opportunity, because this is the second opportunity he has given as far as lecturing is concerned. The other month, I think Vibhaji is also there, I could also present few ideas to the Russian Theosophical Society, and the person who is coordinating from TS Russia, he told me it is Mr. Gohil who suggested your name. So I'm abhari hu. I thank him profusely, and then he says a different way of handling the things, but then I'm just striking a personal note. I have never craved for opportunities to talk. No. If it comes my way, I take it. I don't go after people, sir, I would like to come. No, I've never said it, never. Even increments when I was working in a bank or in a, if it comes, it comes. It doesn't come, it doesn't come. No problem. If you deserve it, okay. If I deserve it, I'll get it. If I don't deserve it, my desiring will not take me there. My grandfather used to say, in Telugu of course, this is Telugu, there is a huge bhanda, means huge vessel, filled with castor oil. It's thick, messy one. If you fall into that by mistake, this body, how much it can take, only it can take. The entire castor oil which is there, it will not come. So why do you worry? What has to come will come. తెలుగులో చెప్పాలంటే బండెడు ఆముదంలో పడినా ఎంత ఒంటి కంటాలో అంతే అంటుతుంది. So don't crave for it. This craving is, see, he was a practical example. So he was moving, we could see how he would behave. And he told me another thing which I practice, because he taught me when I was 21 or 22. It is easy to love someone who loves you. You love someone who is not loving you. He showed it practically. I asked him, how did you talk so nicely to him? You know that he's going and spreading words about you. He said, that's his job. He's doing that karma. He's earning that karma. But I need to show love. I don't care what he wants to do. I would show love. So I've learned that. Is there any other person who can teach that sort of wisdom, living in the same house? I felt, oh, this is ultimate. It's easy to love someone who loves. I pat you, you pat me, oh, wonderful. He hits me, but I still love him. Patting is one thing, hitting is one thing. He hits me, I still love him. So all this is practical knowledge which people have given, because they have perhaps been a stage where they were on the path of realization. And luckily, I'm telling something personal. My parents, one passed away, one went in a different direction. But nature gave me my grandfather and grandmother. They licked us into shape. They put me into shape. They guided me into what we are today. And my last sister was 3 months old when my mother passed away. But she is now 65 or 66. So, you know how much care my grandmother must have taken for a 3-month-old to become, at least she was 25 or 24 when my grandmother passed away. So, that is altruism. Not that this granddaughter is going to remember her or do something to her, nothing. They have just given it. And all the economic resources he had, he spent on us. He didn't have anything at the time he died. And there is a person, he is here sitting. When she was looking at him, he passed away. At 5 p.m., he would have started the lecture. At 4:55, he collapsed near the venue where the lecture was supposed to commence. And he was taken to the primary health center. He died. About to commence a lecture. And when I was taken to that place recently, thanks to Lakshmi Shah and his wife, they were there. I thought maybe it's a relay race, I'm trying to carry it further. Relay race, and the baton gets transferred. So I thought it's a relay race, I'm carrying the baton and taking it further. My brother was very happy. He said, "Arey, you got a chance to go to the same place." And there is one more lady here by name Katyayanamma who fed him that day. And we went and paid our respects. Even now we pay our respects to her because she was so close to my father and the last grandfather in the last few days. I hope these people come. Oh, nobody is going to come for closing?
Sir, some people have come from outside.
Anything else anybody would like to say? Maybe 5 minutes, it's slow, so another 5 minutes is there. So we discuss that. I have struck a lot of personal notes only to give examples of my grandfather who lived. And not about me, but my grandfather was such a great man. Of the highest post, and he handed over the charge of running the house to me. And we were gearing up for that. At about 12 noon, he came back. "Oh, all that need not be done. I have not got that post after all." No change in him. He was not happy that he is getting it. He is not unhappy that he has not got it. He says, "Nothing. We are all together. I'll go wherever I want to. I'm free to lecture wherever I want to. You can take care." I was the eldest of the 5. So I took care of all the people, my grandmother. He says, "That's what it is required. So don't worry. Nothing to worry." So that man was a teacher by profession and teacher by example. And perhaps he answers completely when someone says, HP used to say, you should show the person who is walking and say, "There walks a theosophist." So that sort of a person was he. Nothing he would say is something which is sticking to him, which is not belonging to others. He never thought, "This is mine." Never. Some people are there, say they grow, they leave everything. So if you have some question, or we can move towards closure. As I said, I'm very, very fortunate. Yeah, he's coming. You can close if you like. Yes, Narayanji. And